Alright, so welcome back into another Dragon Ball Super card game video, and today I'm going to go through the deck that I played for the CoreTCG Regional that I unfortunately had to drop out of around round 4 or round 5, but I ended up being X1. Did pretty well, met a lot of cool people. Shout outs to all the people I actually played against. It was a good time, but I did play Cell Surge, just as you can see in the title above me, or below me I think. But if you want to see any of the gameplay that I had or any of the games that I had, you can go ahead and look on my Twitch, which I'll put on the screen here. I did change the name recently, so sorry for the confusion. It's just to be a little bit more clear as far as who I am, because Stored You Can is a little bit out there, and anybody you can search Android can find me. Either way, go check that out. It's only going to be up there for about a week. Please follow me if you want to for future streams, as I do want to go ahead and participate in more locals and more local events as things go on, both for DPS and as well as for Digimon. And of course, I'll be playing a little bit more jank and more fun builds, but hopefully things that can go against the meta. Speaking of Cell Surge, so this is what I played, and it's a bit of inspiration of a number of decks. I think the first one was probably Michael Silk when he talked with the Turles Maidens. And then Paul Demos, I do believe is his last name, Mr. P Demon himself. Shout out to him because I saw him play, or at least talk about it before. And then I started playing this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago and started making my own build. Originally, I was supposed to be making or playing this in the last tournament, but I overslept. So yeah, I only have 3. That's the reason why I had 3. It didn't really have too much of an issue today in the 4 or 5 rounds that I played, and really hasn't been that big of a deal either. If I've not seen it once in the time that I was playing over a course of a couple dozen games, but definitely play this at 4. It is needed at 4. For those who don't know, which I'll talk about the whole combo in just a second. We played 3 of them, 3 of the rebrands, 3 of the Zorloin, 3 of the Yamis, 2 of the 4-drop rebrand, and then a playset of the hand destruction. So real quick, here's the thing, and I'm gonna move my face here. The thing is, if I had to do it again, I would probably put this girl at 1 or 4. I mean, one more. Yumi's or Jamis at 4 as well, and then everything else is perfectly fine. You can probably play a 4th rebrand because you probably want to see rebrand more often than you want to see Zorloin. So for those who don't know, basically the play for this deck specifically is to play this on turn 1. Well, let's back up for a second. You're gonna look at the other cards in a second, but basically you charge a mono green color turn 1. Before I used to have a green yellow to charge just so I can place the Super 17 to crit them to 4 life and then draw 1 when you attack and tap 2. But it just wasn't practical in this type of deck, and it was kind of awkward just charging a multicolor at any time. It didn't have to matter to be turn 1. Even in this format, I think turn 1 multi-charge isn't very good either. But I digress. Basically, you charge a multicolor or a monocolor green card. You pitch a 9-drop cell into your drop. You take a draw. You take a life after that. You pass the turn. You do before you do that, you play out the Demigra, and then you have a counterplay ready, and you just take all the life up until 4. And then after that, basically you go the second turn, you pitch a 2-drop rebrand, you make them pitch 2, or you keep it up for a rival. But usually that's not going to be the case because they're going to be swinging to the Demigra almost every single time. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. You make them pitch 2. Generally, the pitch 2 is sort of like a precursor to them defending the number of swings you're going to be out afterwards. And then turn 3, as long as they don't have a counterplay, which we'll talk about in a little bit, you play the 1-drop rebrand. Look at the top 5. Look for any of these targets because it looks for a Universe 2, and as well as a Maiden or a Heroine, not Maiden. And then activate main. You burst 2, which is really good in this deck. Sometimes you'll hit a rebrand, sometimes you'll hit an ape, sometimes you'll hit a Zarbon blocker, sometimes you'll hit a 9-drop. You get the idea. So it's really good in this. And then you play out a Yumi's. So sometimes you'll burst in Yumi's, and sometimes it'll be in your hand, sometimes it'll be in your life. So that's why it's good to have 4 of these bad boys. And then after that, you pay 1 on 3 energy, pay 1. You awaken Surge, you awaken there, you have the Ymese, you have the Ribrianne, and then you play out the Zorloin for 3, and then you play out the Ribrianne right after. So this is not going to be very new for those who have been watching Maiden decks. I've seen Gotenks, I've seen Turles, etc. Right? Don't like Turles. There's not really a reason for it other than wanting to use Turles with this engine where you can kind of board wipe and then have a big board. I don't really like that. I don't really like Gotenks, even though I think he's really good. Simply because you can go a number of ways of being a generic good mono green leader with access to dormant, which I don't think is really needed, because when you use Zerloin and use the auto to pop itself and then the battle cards can attack, it's the same. It's almost the same thing as dormant in itself, because you're basically getting a leader swing. That's going to go through. You're dormanting there and you're pitching 1, you're pitching this, but you also get a 4 cost after that. And then you also have a unison swing or a battle card swing, which in this case, they're only going to be able to swing with a unison. So it's basically its own dormant for those who don't play very many unisons. And I think if you watch, man, I forgot the link or the channel name. I'll put it on the screen if I remember, but I'll put it in the description. Go check out his deck profile. All those texts and as well as the explanations are really good. He kind of explains a little bit better than I do, but I 100% agree with that. So anyway, play this for 3. You KO it and play a 4-drop from the drop, and we have a lot of targets for that. We'll take a look. 5-drop over here for KO the whole board, ignoring barrier, and that was a 30k triple strike. And then both of these guys can play a 4-drop from your drop, unless their skills are negated, like going against yellow. Which for this deck, which I'll talk about in the matchups again, the worst matchups are probably Soul Striker and as well as Mecha Frieza. Mecha Frieza because it can negate the skills here, and as well as can negate the skills coming into play. And then Soul Striker because they play a beefy unison that's hard to get rid of on turn 3 if you're going second, and you have to resort to hand destruction. But Soul Striker draws so much, not only because of the apes that they play, but because of the unison that draws them 1, draws them 2 with the leader awaken, and then draws 1 more with the leader swing. So it's very hard to get around. So Ymese reduces by 2, so now these girls can be 1-drop attackers. This could be a 3-drop attacker, but you never want to do that. And these are just another target for the 1-drop because it can search it out, and you're playing Jiro, so which their arrival is going to be a little bit good. It didn't really come up, but it's good against like decks that have 4 or less because it can pop it from there. And of course, if they remove it and they have a battle card that 4 or less on the field without barrier, you can get to pop something from there. That's the whole gist of it. When you get it set up on turn 3, you use the leader ability to take 1 out after you start to awaken, and then all the battle cards on their field have to be played in rest mode. You can go the other way if they have a low hand, and it's about the same, if not better, effect to pop a card out of their hand, and then as well as have these guys on the board. Like if they have 4 or less cards in hand for some reason after trying to defend all this, it's a good way to get around, or at least to do that. And that's the whole thing. I think that kind of covers everything. I don't think there's really much else to really think about. The Maiden package is really good with this leader specifically because you can kind of switch to hand destruction, and the top 5 makes it super consistent. Like I can't express how consistent it makes, even though you run 3 of these bad girls. Okay, here's more of the Cell Surge stuff. Here's some hand destruction and as well as Cell generic stuff that you can play in any Cell deck. We have 2 of the Power of Legend Goku, just in case you make them pitch 2 or use the leader ability. Now you have a 15k free attacker for crit, and as well as warp 4 or less. Demigra is super good in almost every matchup. There's only a couple matchups that aren't very good. I mean, maybe Vegex, because like honestly, Vegex can, as soon as you pop it, the next turn they're gonna come back because of the leader effect. But most of the time it's good. It's good against Shenron for the early crit attacks. It's not very good against the 9-drop that negates skills. You can do it against the 4-drop, and then it forces them to reestablish everything and also draw another 8 if that's the case. Well, no, it doesn't force them to do that, but it makes them force to establish. But you let them draw a card, which is not the play. So you have to play around it. Is basically what I'm saying. So Demigra is really good against Dark Broly, Red Broly, etc. All that. That's because of the Frieza charismatic, and his will is -3. The -3 is underrated for sure. 3 shocking death ball. That's all you really need. You only need to see, or I would say negate once per game, because you're resting everything, you're popping everything, and you're preventing all the attacks. And by the time that you get the whole board set up, you're either losing or winning the game. There's not really much else to that. We have the draw apes because you don't draw on the backside. We have these guys to awaken, get to 4 as quickly as possible because that's what you want to do. And as well as to draw. These guys are just super broken, honestly. It's probably the best support that we've seen in a leader in a long time. The 2 apes you can probably put at 3 or even 4. You only resolve, I would say, 1 or 2 apes per game anyway. Again, if you're doing more than that, you're probably losing. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Now we play 3 Duros and 1 defending father Paragus. You play a lot of 10Ks from the Zerloins to the 9 drops to the Rebrians to all the other stuff that we're going to take a look at. Paragus helps with that, not only to push for game, but also to see more cards and warp something that you don't need. And that's really, really good. That's all I can really say. Duro puts down any of the 4 drops that can be played with the Zerloin and as well as Rebrian, and it can get your apes and as well as the 2 drops. Most of the time you'll be drawing into them or using leader effect or the 1 drop. So the 2 drops, you're almost always going to see one every single game. Here's some 1-ofs because I don't have enough cards, and I'll explain that. Here's a 13, Super 13. Yep. Here's a Champa / Kai. Here's a Bardock. Here's a Heroine's Lineage. Here is a Kunkunsa. Here's a Krillin in 18. Here's a 13 Mission Begins. Here's a 4-drop Piccolo. Here's a Zarbon, and here's a Surprise Attack Frieza. So, 2 things. Again, I made a whole spiel at the beginning of the video about mail because I just wanted to rant for a second and also explain why I have so many 1-ofs. All these 1-ofs are basically replacements for each other. So I think I would keep the Piccolo because it's good and you can easily get it with Duro. All these can get down to Duro except for the Kunkunsa, which you'll get with the 1-drop Rebrian, and you can play from drop. The Super 7 or Super 13, I would probably take it out, but it's pretty good because there are awkward times where you can be over comboing against like a 10 or 15k when you're awakened or unawakened. You really just want to just combo 5k, and then let me get a Rebrand out, Android 13 out, or Krillin out, right? I think if you were going to do this again, if I was going to do this again with the right supply, I would probably take out the Zarbon because I think Zarbon's good because it kind of recurs and it's good at 1, but I'd probably take it out and replace with the Android 13 or replace it with this. I think Kunkunsa and as well as Surprise Attack can be taken out as well for the 4-drop Kunkunsa, where you play it for 2 if your leader card is green on their turn, and you get to KO something and counter something. I think that is the best one, and having 2 of them would be super clutch because you basically get to prevent 2 different attacks, especially when you got it set up and you don't really want to play another Rebrand or Zerloin. You can just keep the energy up at 4 energy ape or make them pitch 2, swing, and if they do something else and you don't want to use leader ability, or if you're to use it, or if you don't want to use Zerloin, or if you don't have one, Kunkunsa is going to be there for it. Now the choice of secret rare here is going to be Heroine's Lineage. It really helps against, like, again, Dark Broly. I've stolen Dark Broly so many times at this point, and as well as Red Broly. Both of those are really, really good pre like end game. I would say like mid to end game is usually where it is. And remember, this is their turn or their 3 energy. So as long as they have 3 energy, you can go ahead and put it. I'm just gonna make sure because I always gonna be wrong about this. Your opponent has 3 more energy. Okay, so you get to steal it, and generally what I usually do is when they're done with all their plays, they have little to no energy, you're not dying that turn, and you have 1 open energy and you're not going to be using it, let them swing with leader or let them swing with anything else. Either you take it or you combo out, and then you use the activate battle while they have 3 energy. Now I've done that before, whereas Dark Broly, they swung, I counterplayed something, I took the 30k, they swung with leader, and then I was like, okay, let me go ahead and combo out with the Duro because I'm on Awaken, and then I'm going to go ahead and take your Dark Broly. Now I have a 30k Dark Broly, which doesn't negate skills, so I can have a 30k blocker if I really needed to, And overall, it just works really, really well with that. And they have one less targeted combo, and as well as to play later on. Bardock is really good because now if you have one open energy and you don't have an additional attacker, this can kind of be the last resort to draw 2 and filter out your hand. Pitch something like a 9-drop that you couldn't use in the first place in your hand. Draw 1. You can pitch one for a Piccolo. If you have these guys out and you don't have any other targets in there, you can drop 1 for a Zarbon. You can pay the energy, awaken, do whatever you want. Or you can go ahead and drop the 2 and then Hidden Power Supreme Kai for double strike, 30k. Overall, really cool really cool deck. I love the deck. Hopefully this is visible for everything, so if you skip to the end, that's okay. I talk way too much, and the list is in the description below for sure. I was gonna talk about other stuff, but shout outs to Christian for letting me have these 2 freezes for the event. Shout out to Paul again for the talkbacks as well. And shout out to everybody who I played against. I didn't top because I just literally didn't play. I think this, and I'm going to be very careful with this, if this is built right, I think this can either win an event or at least get top 4, top 8. I 100% believe that. Also, if you switch with this, I didn't mention this, for Celestino, it's going to be a GG on turn 5, almost always is. And lastly, far as matchups, round 1 went against Android 21 Ramp. I played that wrong, I lost it, and that's simply because I was afraid of their God Ceiling, where they had the free 3 marker or Super 13, and he was defending pretty well. I think if I sat back and played Hand Destruction like I did with the baby on round 3, I think I would have won that one. I think that was my bad. I think they played it perfectly well, established a board that I couldn't take care of, and that's just all it is. Like, you can't take care of a board when these guys don't have deflect. I think round 2 was the mirror. I don't even know how I did it, but I basically went the route of sitting back, hand destruction when I can, attack with crit where I can, and then as well as just have a hand advantage versus theirs. And then when I can, go ahead and pop their board with Zerloin and rebrand, just slowly build up to the chain instead of just using on turn 3 like you would do for anything else. Baby was the 3rd match. I won for that one. That was not too bad. Honestly, I just went ahead and used hand destruction. I just saw all the rebrands that I needed to. The power of legend, Krillin, all of them really helped pretty well, and just established a hand with the cell and as well as the rose to put into the drop. And then round 4 was Sin Shenron aggro. Really, it's just about defending as soon as possible, keeping up Demigra for the 5-drop Frieza, and then taking life very carefully. So you have to either be at 2 when they play something, or go to 1 or take the markers down as they attack the unison, which they either have to attack the unison, prevent my arrival, or attack my leader where I can combo an arrival. Or and basically they have to attack the unison, just go down on the counters, up, out, down into 1, and try not to go past 4 life. That's my suggestion for Sin Shenron. And by the time that you do get the turn 3 play, they should not be able to get too around anything. They will haze, which happened twice. They hazed my rebrands, Zerloin, etc. That's just all you can really do. The Mission Begins helps a lot with that matchup as well. As soon as you establish that, it is definitely going to be an easier time. They have to get rid of it, or else every time that they do something, they're just going to get popped in the next turn. Same thing for Frieza. And then the last round, the next round after that, I had a drop, but I think I was going to play against Slug. Shout out to Tamer AG. I think that would have been an interesting match if, depending on who gets the turn 3 play, it just really depends on that, really, and just prevent yourself from taking crit. That's all it is. They're going to be swinging a leader. You're going to have Demigra out, just combo out. That's all I can really think of for that one. And then just take life on your own. Again, worst matchup is probably Soul Striker or Mecha, just like I was talking about before. Big beefy blue unisons are really bad for God Ceiling, and going against this, the Mecha Frieza, because they have a lot of 3 or lower cost play or counter plays. They can prevent Yumis, they can prevent the 1-drop, and they can prevent these guys because they are technically 3 costs or less. And then the other thing is probably the better matchups is probably King Piccolo, to be honest, and really anything that's that's not drawing too much, because you can just neg them out with the hand destruction package, and then just clear the board when they actually do try to establish a board. And every time they do, after you kill their hand, that's 1 card less and 1 more energy that they're playing. So Freeze to take care of that. Zerloin and Rebrand takes care of that. Okay, that wraps up the video. I'm sorry for talking so much, but I'm gonna go ahead and end it with a pack. Just like I was talking about before, I'm trying to find a Kai secret. This is the Vicious Rejuvenation special packs, are the ones that you buy separately. We have a Vados, Anguilla, etc. Please join the Discord. By this time, I probably announced, or at least put out like a little promo for the webcam locals. It is free, it is easy to enter, and hopefully we can have some fun every Wednesday, I believe at 4 o'clock Pacific time. We have a launch, well, at a cutting edge, and then an SR. Gogeta, nice. Okay, otherwise, I will see you in the next one.